If you're officially in UNC status, like the age of 35 and up, yeah, that's UNC status. And you're trying to, figure out how to work with younger artists, I might have a word for you today. Bolo! All right, before we get started, make sure you guys go ahead and check out all of my affiliate links. Make sure you guys go ahead and check out my drum kits. They are very dope and they are very cheap. So go ahead and click that link in the description right now. Also, if you guys need some music equipment, make sure you guys go ahead and click my link in the description and head over to sounds.com. They have a whole bunch of stuff on the site that requires no credit or background check, meaning you can go ahead, order your equipment, they'll ship it over to you, and you can just pay it off over time using monthly installments. All you have to do is just link a credit or debit card up to the account. So it's not every item on the site, but it's a whole bunch of items on the site that you can get right now with no credit or background check from sounds.com. But just go ahead and make sure you click my link in the description right now. Also, if you guys need to protect your equipment, make sure you guys go ahead and click that link in the description to Analog Cases. Analog Cases has cases for everything: microphones, cords, beat machines, MIDI controllers, whatever you need, Analog Cases has a case for it. So make sure you guys go ahead and click that link in the description. Go ahead to their website, check out some cases, and you can actually save 10% if you get some. So go ahead and check out that link in the description and head over to Analog Cases right now. Now, I know like some of my other videos, I do like all the cuts and breaks and all that stuff like that. Well, today I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to talk because I want to just be natural with you guys today. And because a lot of you guys asked me about me working with younger artists. As you guys know, a lot of my success came from working with artists that were in their teens. I have worked with older artists and I have worked with, mostly artists that are in their 20s. But a lot of my success came from basically kids. And I know some of you guys are in that age right now where, you're kind of in that UNC status, 33, 34, 35. 36, even 40, 45, 50, even 60. But you're still out here producing and you still want to produce for artists, mainly younger artists. And sometimes it's a bit of a challenge because you kind of got that age gap and things change. Like, just think about it. When you were 16, 17, 18 in high school, you would hang around mostly high schoolers. When you were in college, you would mostly hang around people around your age. Then when you get out of college, you would mostly hang around people that were, out of college. And, it's a few people that were younger that hung around older people or older people that hung around younger people. But most of the time you hang around people that are around your age. Now you get around 35, 40, 45, that gap gets a little bigger because somebody who's like 45 can, you can technically hang around somebody who's 55 or, maybe a 10-year gap or something like that, because that's like that middle age and things kind of, come together a little bit better. However, when you're younger, you tend to hang around people around your age group. And it's just like going to a club. Like when you get to like my age, you don't necessarily go to like younger clubs unless you're kind of creepy. I don't know. But there is some people who still go to younger clubs, but then there's, a lot of times we go to like these older clubs, you don't see really young people in there because they want to stay around their age group. And it's the same thing with music. When you're producing, a lot of times you're producing for people who are around your age because you're more comfortable with that. You got, the conversations are different. The way things are moved in the studio are different. Now, so far as like mixing engineers, that's different because I've seen a lot of older mix engineers with younger guys, and I've seen even some young guys with older people. So far as like with, engineers or mix engineers or whatever like that. But when it comes to producing and just being in the studio world, a lot of times you kind of stay within your age range. That's why when you see a lot of these producers, these older producers that have produced for a lot of big artists back in the day, you notice that they tend to like to work with people who are around their age. And then you see some of the younger producers kind of like to work with some of the producers that are around their age. But let's just say you're somebody who is dope. You got really good beats and you want to, work with younger artists, what's some things that you can do if you're just a little kind of skeptical about doing it? Well, one thing is you do not want to sit there and try to act like them. That's the first thing you don't want to do. I seen a producer come in, he was 37 and he was producing for an 18-year-old kid, and he was trying to like hang out with him and like try to like be them again, like living vicariously through the artist, really kind of like trying to be young again. And it was very weird because even the people around him were like, the younger guys were like talking about him like, come on, old head, you trying to be young and all this stuff like that. Don't do that. Be yourself and be your age in a sense, because certain conversations, it just doesn't add up to younger artists. I'm just being honest with you guys. Certain conversations just don't add up. So you have to just be you. Either way, if you're young or old, you still have to just be yourself. Because, there's some young guys who really have old souls, and there's some older guys who have younger souls. But mostly when you're around people that are around your age, the conversations are different. The way you move is different. The way they move while they're younger is different. And especially if the artist is maybe like in their teens or early teens, they're definitely moving different because 9 times out of 10, they have like a parent or somebody there. So if you're a little older, first thing that you do is you don't try to act like the artist or try to like hang the way they hang, because the way they hang is totally different. The way you used to hang out when you were 18 is not the way these kids hang out now when they're 18. It's a totally different scene. Times have changed. Things have evolved, or they've broken down, however way you want to look at it. So that's what you don't want to do. Number 2, you don't want to try to be a parent to that artist. A lot of times that we get with younger artists or whatever, we try to be either that father figure or that motherly figure. However you're trying to be, you cannot be a parent to that younger artist, okay? You have to just be the producer. A lot of times we get in there, we try to give these stories about life and, oh, this is how things should be, and this is how you should act, or this is the way you should do things in life. Don't do that. That will turn off these young artists very fast when you try to sit here and try to be a parent to them, knowing you're not their parent. Now, there's a lot of artists that make it close to you and they may feel like, oh, this guy is really cool. Saying this person, they really show love for me and stuff like that. That's cool. Great. But trying to be a parent or trying to step in and fill that role is not your job. And I had to learn that as well when I was managing at the time, a very young and big artist at the time. And I had to learn that I am not that child's parent. I'm not that child's like guardian. On the road, I'm the legal guardian, but I'm not that child's guardian. So I had to learn to not try to be in that super overly parent role. Now, I did have to lay down some boundaries in certain things, but I'm not that child's parent. So when you're working with these kids, don't try to seem like that daddy figure or that motherly figure. Just try to be as cool as possible, pass down some information, but don't try to like even get in the studio and chastise and say, well, back in the day, this is the way we used to do it. And this was wrong with you kids and stuff like that. All right. So that's what you don't want to do. Okay. Number 3, that kind of was a segue into this. Number 3 is, as you're older, you learn things about life and you know some of the do's and don'ts. However, you cannot chastise these artists because of things that, you think is right in your head. These artists have certain feelings in certain ways, how they feel about certain topics and certain ways they go about their life. You cannot chastise an artist because you're older and you may see things that may not be right. You cannot chastise that artist or say, you're not doing this the right way. You're not doing this the way I used to do it. This is the way you should do it. You cannot do that, because right there, that will completely throw them off. Okay, because now you feel like you're fussing at that artist rather than trying to teach them. Okay, so get all the fuss and everything out, because that is the quickest way you can drive an artist away, especially at an older age right now. Now, These kids will fight amongst each other all the time about certain things and certain beliefs or how they feel about something, but they fight a certain way. You know what I'm saying? And you got to let them just do that. But for you being the older person in the room, you have to just be as cool as possible, and you have to give them knowledge. And if they soak in the knowledge, they soak it in. If they don't, just try to give them as much knowledge as possible. All right. Number 4, like I was just ending on that, is be a teacher. You can be a teacher, but you're not going to be grading these artists. A lot of times we want to give knowledge and say, hey, this is what I know, and I want to give you this knowledge. And you can teach these kids, but you don't want to be somebody who is like grading their lives, especially in the studio. If you have some really dope beats and say, for instance, the artist is like, okay, they're coming on it, but they might not come on the beat the way you want it. You can kind of teach that artist and say, hey, look, why don't we go back to some of these classic songs, hear how this stuff came about. Let's work on the structure. Let's work on the delivery. Let's do this. If you feel like that's cool, because at the end of the day, you can teach kids certain things, but sometimes the lesson that you're trying to teach them doesn't apply to certain songs and certain records. So you can teach them, but don't try to grade them and be like, yeah, you did pretty good on that. I don't like it. It's almost saying like, okay, you did pretty good on that song, but you got a C- on it. So a lot of times when I get in there with these younger kids, I give them some stuff that I think that they might like. And then sometimes they're very excited because they want to get on that stuff. And sometimes they're like, I'm just not really feeling it at this moment. And then, sometimes you might say, hey, okay, I feel you on that. What can we do to try to make this a little bit better? Or let me show you the ropes on like how we used to do certain things. And what do you think about this? Because you want to be able to give that artist a voice, which leads to number 5. You have to be a listener. You have to be the biggest listener of all times, because these kids know what other kids want. Case in point, I was recording a kid and I swear this kid was offbeat. Like I'm sitting like, oh my goodness, he's offbeat. I need to line him up. I gotta line this kid up. I gotta put him in pocket. And then as he got done with his verse, I'm like, hey, let me go ahead and line everything up because it's kind of out of pocket and stuff like that. And then when I played it back, he was like, yo, what you did? What did you do to my voice? I'm like, I lined everything up. It sounds good. He was like, nah, bro, like that's that old stuff, man. Like this is what they like. And I'm like, for real? You're like, yes. Like it sounds good. It sounds exactly how I want. I'm like, but it's a little ahead and it's a little behind it. This is exactly how we want it. And I had at that moment like an epiphany, like, you know what? That's what they want. This is the current state of what these younger artists want. So I had to take a step back and let the artists kind of do their thing. And I had to listen. And then over time, once I started listening to other artists, I'm like, okay, all of these young artists are doing this too, and I had to just brace myself for what was going to come next. But then over time, I learned that was their style. That's what it was. It's a style. Not all the young artists do that. It's some that do that, but you have to be a listener and understand that you sometimes have to educate yourself on what's going on out here. Even though you might have been in the music game, you might have done a lot of stuff, you still have to be somebody who can take in information and learn even from these younger artists. You can learn what's going on. You can learn the trends, but then you can use your knowledge to enhance that as well. And I think the last thing that I would kind of encourage a lot of you guys, and I know some of you guys may have some things that you can add, and I hope you can do that in the comment section as well to give, other, older producers, us unk status or auntie status producers some games. So you can make sure to put that down in the comment section. But I think one thing too is we have to learn not to force certain things on these young artists. Okay. I know that, back in some of y'all, the 70s, 80s, 90s, we had certain rules to how we did things. And unless, you know, you're somebody who is at the top of the totem pole, like a Diddy or a JD or, you know, like a Birdman or a Master P, or, you know, people who are really big and really did it big in this music industry. Unless you're on that status, you cannot force nobody to do anything. Because as how great you can be, you can't force that kid to do every single, you know, remix from the 90s, or, hey, you should redo this, or we should do that, or I think with your voice, you should do this. You know, sometimes kids will take that, but a lot of times they don't want to hear that. They just want to be themselves. So you cannot force ideas on certain things on these kids. You have to be open to anything that they accept at that moment. And then you can kind of slide a few things in every now and then, because you have to develop that trust with that younger artist. If you develop that trust with that younger artist and you do have some success, I'm telling you right now, over time, they will roll with pretty much whatever you bring. They'll at least do it. But if you don't develop that and you try to force ideals and certain things on them, you will lose that artist. You would definitely lose them. Now, if they're like your son or your daughter or something like that, it's a little different. You know what I'm saying? That's for a whole nother video. But if it's somebody that you're trying to work with and you're dope and you're talented and they're dope and talented, kind of get that feel for that artist first, develop that trust, develop that respect. But what I mean from that is they have to respect you in a sense, because especially if they are artists, they have younger people respecting them. They have to develop that respect for you as a producer, for them to be able to say, okay, I'll try it. And in that way, you guys will be able to do some things to, you know, help further them as artists along the way. So these are just a few things that I wanted to talk about. I know the video might have got a little lengthy, but I just wanted to just give you guys this insight, because a lot of you guys asked me this, and but not that many, maybe probably like total, maybe like 10 or 15, but I think that's a lot. But I want to just make this video and just keep it really candid. And I want to just speak to y'all about some of the things that I do when I work with younger artists. I actually work with a 16-year-old artist right now, about to work with another 12-year-old artist right now. Their parents are cool because they know how I work, and they know I try to do the best I can for these artists, and I still let them be them. So hopefully this video helps you guys out. If you guys are in this situation, if anybody who is younger that is watching this video, please give some, you know, let me know how you feel about this, and give some insight in the comment section as well. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and hope you guys learned something from it. So like I always say, peace out.